What if the moment the narcissist loses their grip is the very moment you awaken a self you never knew existed? The downfall sparks a transformation so powerful it could rewrite your entire life. As Carl Jung said, when the shadow collapses, the hidden self begins to rise. Could their greatest failure be the key to your deepest freedom? Stay with me, because what happens next might be the awakening you've been waiting for. Before we dive into this powerful journey, take a moment to join our growing community of seekers and deep thinkers. Hit subscribe and tap the bell icon, because every week we explore Carl Jung's wisdom, the hidden forces of the shadow, and the breakthroughs that turn pain into power. If this message speaks to your heart, a simple like or comment can help others discover the light within their own darkness. Now, let's begin the awakening. Every narcissistic relationship begins with a story of control, subtle, seductive, and carefully crafted. At first, it doesn't even look like control. It appears as charm, attention, and a strange kind of magnetism that makes you feel chosen. The narcissist knows how to read the quiet hopes inside a person's heart. They study your language, your needs, your wounds, and your dreams, until they can mirror back the version of love you most long to receive. This is why so many empaths, people who naturally sense and absorb the feelings of others, find themselves drawn into the narcissist's orbit. It feels like recognition, as if someone finally sees the depth of your soul. But behind the compliments and connection hides a plan. Carl Jung described this as the shadow, the part of the human psyche that contains everything we refuse to face. The narcissist, ruled by their own unacknowledged shadow, projects their darkness onto others. Instead of meeting their own fear of inadequacy, they create a stage where you carry their hidden pain. Your sensitivity becomes their playground. They push boundaries in small ways. A backhanded comment, a sudden withdrawal of affection, a shifting of blame when they are clearly at fault. Each moment tests your empathy. Will you notice? Will you speak? Or will you give more of yourself to keep the peace? For a time, this pattern can feel impossible to escape. The empath's gift of compassion becomes a trap. You reason, you forgive, you explain, believing that love can heal what manipulation has created. But something powerful begins to happen beneath the surface. While the narcissist repeats their cycle, your inner self, what Jung called the self with a capital S, starts gathering strength. Every silent doubt, every sleepless night, every tear shed in private becomes a seed of awakening. Your unconscious begins to whisper the truth. This is not love. This is control. The narcissist senses it before you do. They feel the shift when their words no longer land with the same force. They notice when your eyes stop searching for their approval. They panic. This is where the cracks begin to show. The carefully maintained mask, perfect confidence, endless charm, starts to slip. They lash out, escalate, or retreat, desperate to pull you back into the dance. But the more they struggle to keep power, the more obvious their tactics become. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The empath's awakening is the moment this truth takes root. What once felt like destiny, meeting the narcissist, enduring their cruelty, reveals itself as a pattern you can finally see. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The spell breaks. This first stage of transformation isn't loud. It doesn't happen in a single dramatic confrontation. It begins in quiet moments. A breath you didn't realize you were holding. A sudden clarity when their words no longer confuse you, a feeling of inner distance even as they stand close. The collapse of their control starts not with your shout, but with your silence, the kind of silence that comes from understanding. This is the turning point. The narcissist may believe they are still winning, but something irreversible has begun. Your mind is waking, your soul is preparing to rise. And their failure, though they cannot yet see it, has already started. The collapse of a narcissist's control doesn't erupt like an explosion. It unfolds like a quiet sunrise. Long before anyone notices, the night begins to fade. This is the stage where your awakening gathers momentum, even if you can't yet name it. Something deep inside starts to refuse the old script, and for the first time, your nervous system begins to sense that freedom is possible. At first, these sparks arrive as small, almost invisible choices. You pause before answering a text. You stop explaining yourself after every accusation. You catch the subtle twist of their words and feel a flicker of calm instead of panic. It might seem insignificant, but every tiny act of inner resistance is a declaration. My soul is no longer your playground. Carl Jung described the unconscious as a reservoir of wisdom that waits beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. During years of manipulation, this reservoir remains hidden, as if sealed by layers of fear and self-doubt. But the moment the narcissist's grip weakens, the seal begins to crack. Dreams become vivid, intuition sharpens. You start noticing patterns, phrases they repeat, moods they cycle through, the way every apology is actually another attempt to pull you back. It's as if a deeper intelligence has turned on the lights in a room you didn't know you were living in. This is also when your body begins to speak. An empath's sensitivity is not only emotional, it is physical. Perhaps you notice a sudden lightness in your chest when you spend a day without their voice in your ear. Perhaps you feel a surge of energy after a single hour of uninterrupted solitude. These sensations are not random. They are the language of liberation, the nervous system signaling that the threat is no longer absolute. Of course, the narcissist senses this shift. They respond with a confusing mix of charm and cruelty, as if testing whether the old hooks still work. One day they might offer a tearful confession, claiming they finally understand your pain. The next, they might unleash sudden anger, accusing you of being cold or ungrateful. This is their desperation disguised as strategy. They cannot allow your light to grow because your awakening exposes the emptiness behind their mask. In these moments, it's tempting to slip back into old habits, explaining, negotiating, hoping they will finally change. But each time you resist, even for a single breath, your inner strength expands. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming your whole self. It isn't about destroying the narcissist or proving them wrong. It's about reclaiming every fragment of your own being that was once handed over in the name of love. You may not feel strong yet. You may still doubt your perceptions, still fear the loneliness that change might bring. But strength is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move through fear toward truth. Every quiet no, every boundary drawn in silence, every moment you choose inner peace over their chaos is a victory that reshapes the landscape of your psyche. This is the second stage of the awakening, the recognition that your power has always been yours. The narcissist never created your light. They only tried to hide it. Now, with each small act of self-trust, the hidden self that Jung spoke of begins to emerge from the shadows. And once it steps into the open, it will never return to the prison they built. Clarity arrives like a sudden clearing in a storm. After months or years of confusion, the fog begins to lift, and what once felt tangled now reveals a painful but unmistakable pattern. It's not that the narcissist suddenly changes. It's that you begin to see. The same words that once left you doubting yourself now sound like echoes of an old script. The cycle of idealize, devalue, and discard stops feeling personal and starts looking mechanical, almost predictable. And with that realization, the spell begins to crumble. Carl Jung believed that consciousness expands through confrontation with the shadow. For the empath, this moment of recognition is exactly that confrontation. You face not only the narcissist's darkness, but also your own hidden fears. The fear of being alone, the fear of being unworthy, the fear that love must always hurt. It is here in this sacred discomfort that transformation starts to take root. You begin to ask questions you once avoided. Why do I keep forgiving what destroys my peace? What am I really afraid will happen if I walk away? Each question is a beam of light breaking through the cracks of the old reality. This clarity is not gentle. It can feel like betrayal, because it forces you to admit that the love you believed in was built on manipulation. It can feel like grief, because you mourn not only the relationship, but also the version of yourself who tolerated so much pain. But this grief is holy. It's the cleansing fire that burns away illusion. As Jung wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Pain becomes the teacher that shows you where the false self ends and the true self begins. During this stage, small details become startling revelations. You notice how every gift they gave carried an unspoken debt. You remember the way their praise always had a condition. You catch the exact moment their eyes hardened when you expressed joy that didn't involve them. These memories are not just recollections. They are evidence, proof that the story you lived was never balanced love, but a performance designed to feed their fragile ego. The narcissist, sensing your growing clarity, often tries to rewrite history. They may claim you are imagining things or accuse you of cruelty for wanting distance. But the more they twist the narrative, the sharper your perception becomes. What once pulled you into endless debates now feels strangely hollow, like a magician repeating a trick after the audience has seen the secret. Their words lose their power because your mind is no longer searching for them to make sense. You've begun to trust your own inner voice, and that voice grows louder with each passing day. Clarity also awakens a new understanding of empathy itself. You begin to see that empathy without boundaries is not love, it is self-abandonment. True empathy includes yourself. It listens to your body when it says enough. It honors the quiet wisdom that tells you healing is impossible while remaining in the same cage. This realization is both heartbreaking and liberating. Heartbreaking because it means stepping away from someone you once believed you could save. Liberating because it reveals that saving them was never your job. This third stage of awakening is like standing at the edge of a wide river. Behind you lies the familiar shore of chaos and control. Before you lies the unknown. The narcissist will do everything to keep you from crossing. Pleas, threats, promises of change. But once you see the pattern clearly, the river loses its terror. It becomes simply the next step, the inevitable passage to a life where your power is no longer hidden. Clarity opens the door, but courage is what carries you through it. After you finally see the pattern, the next step is often the hardest, deciding to separate emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically from the narcissist's grip. This is not a single action, but a series of choices that require a steady heart and a willingness to tolerate uncertainty. At first, courage may not feel like bravery. It might feel like exhaustion, like the quiet realization that you simply cannot keep living the same story. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This stage demands exactly that. You must accept that your needs, your peace, and your truth matter more than the illusion of love the narcissist offers. It is an act of radical self-acceptance, choosing your own life over their control. The narcissist will sense the shift long before you announce it. They are experts at detecting even the smallest change in energy. When they feel your withdrawal, expect a surge of tactics, love bombing to reel you back, sudden promises of therapy or change, or explosive anger designed to frighten you into staying. This is not a sign of their love. It is proof of their fear. Your awakening threatens the fragile identity they built on your compliance. Courage in this phase means refusing to play the old game. You stop offering explanations for every decision. You limit the information you share. You practice what therapists call gray rock, remaining emotionally neutral when they try to provoke you. These strategies are not cruelty. They are boundaries. They protect the space where your healing can begin. But separation is not only external. The deeper challenge is internal, breaking free from the psychological hooks that once felt like love. Empaths often carry a deep desire to heal others, and the narcissist exploits this instinct. They convince you that leaving will destroy them or prove you were heartless all along. Here, courage means facing the guilt that rises when you choose yourself. It means understanding that their well-being is not your responsibility, and that true love never demands the sacrifice of your soul. This stage is also where practical preparation matters. Create a support system, friends, family, or a therapist who can remind you of the truth when doubt creeps in. If the relationship involves shared finances or living arrangements, plan quietly and carefully. Keep records of communications if you anticipate legal or custody issues. Practical steps might seem mundane compared to the emotional storm, but they are the scaffolding that allows your new life to stand. As you begin to separate, expect moments of fear and grief. The narcissist's voice may echo in your mind, questioning your worth or predicting your failure. But each day you maintain your boundary, the echo grows weaker. The silence that once felt unbearable begins to feel like peace. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming whole. Every act of courage, every boundary kept, every truth spoken brings you closer to that wholeness. Remember, separation is not a single dramatic exit. It can be a slow reclaiming of space, a series of quiet steps away from chaos. Each step, no matter how small, is a declaration: my life belongs to me. The narcissist may rage, plead, or vanish, but the direction is set. You are walking toward freedom, and with each stride, the power they once held dissolves into the past. The first days and weeks after separation feel like stepping into a world you barely recognize. For so long, the narcissist's presence filled every corner of your mental space. Every decision, every silence, every heartbeat seemed to orbit their moods. When that orbit finally breaks, the sudden freedom can feel both exhilarating and terrifying. This is the emotional aftermath, a stage filled with contradictions, grief and relief, emptiness and possibility, loss and quiet triumph. Many empaths are surprised by how intensely grief shows up. Even if the relationship was painful, the end still carries the weight of what you once hoped it could be. You grieve the dream of mutual love, the version of yourself who kept believing, and the simple comfort of familiarity. Carl Jung wrote, "There is no birth of consciousness without pain. The pain of this grief is not a sign that you made a mistake. It is evidence that your psyche is shedding the illusions that once bound you. It is the emotional equivalent of a snake releasing old skin." Relief often arrives in flashes. Maybe it's the first morning you wake without the tension of anticipating their mood. Maybe it's an afternoon where your laughter feels unguarded and real. These moments may seem small, but they are profound signals of healing. Your nervous system, once locked in constant vigilance, begins to learn safety again. The body keeps the score, and now it starts to rewrite the story. Still, the unknown can feel overwhelming. The narcissist once occupied not only your time, but also your identity. Without their constant reflection, you may wonder, who am I now? What do I even like? This is where the deeper work of individuation begins. Jung described individuation as the process of integrating all the parts of yourself, light and shadow, past and present, into a whole, authentic self. Separation creates the space for this integration, but it also forces you to face the emptiness that manipulation once filled. During this stage, memories often surface with unexpected clarity. You might replay conversations and notice the subtle manipulation you once overlooked. You might recall moments of joy and feel confusion about how love and harm existed side by side. These reflections can trigger doubt. Was it really that bad? Could I have done more? This is a natural part of healing, but it is also a dangerous doorway back into the old pattern. The mind, uncomfortable with uncertainty, sometimes romanticizes the past simply because it was familiar. To navigate this, grounding practices become essential. Daily journaling, therapy, meditation, or even mindful walks can help you stay anchored in the present. Write down the reasons you left. List the moments of manipulation you now recognize. Each written truth acts like a lighthouse, guiding you back to the reality of why separation was necessary. Support is another lifeline. Share your story with trusted friends, a therapist, or a support group. Speaking the truth out loud dismantles the secrecy that narcissistic abuse thrives on. It also reminds you that you are not alone, that countless others have walked this same path and emerged stronger. The aftermath is not merely a time of recovery, it is the fertile ground of rebirth. As grief softens and relief grows, you begin to sense a quiet strength rising from within. This strength is not about vengeance or proving the narcissist wrong. It is the slow realization that your life, your choices, and your joy belong to you. The relationship's end, once feared as a collapse, becomes the very soil in which your true self takes root. Freedom from the narcissist creates a strange kind of silence. At first it might feel unsettling, like walking into a room where the noise suddenly stops and you're left with only your own heartbeat. But this quiet is not emptiness. It is the fertile ground where a new life begins to grow. What once felt like a void is, in truth, the sacred space of rebirth. After months or years of emotional chaos, your nervous system slowly learns what safety feels like. You start to notice the sound of your own thoughts again. Instead of bracing for criticism, you begin to ask yourself simple but powerful questions. What do I actually enjoy? What kind of mornings make me feel alive? What dreams did I put away just to keep the peace? At first, the answers might come hesitantly, like faint whispers. But with time, they grow stronger, forming a blueprint for the self you are meant to become. Carl Jung called this process individuation. The journey of becoming whole by integrating every part of your being, even the parts once rejected or hidden. The narcissist's influence forced you to bury your own needs and adopt a false identity to survive. Now, individuation invites you to reclaim those lost fragments. It's like gathering scattered pieces of a puzzle and discovering that each piece, even the painful ones, belongs to the masterpiece of your life. Practical rebuilding begins with small, deliberate choices. You might start by redesigning your physical environment, removing objects that carry the narcissist's energy, rearranging furniture, or introducing colors and textures that reflect your personality. These changes are more than decoration. They are physical affirmations that this space and this life belong to you. Next comes the rebuilding of daily habits. For so long, your routines were shaped around someone else's moods. Now you can create rhythms that nourish rather than drain you. Morning walks, creative projects, a new hobby, or even regular meals at consistent times. All these acts of self-care are declarations of independence. They remind your mind and body that your time is yours again. This stage also invites deeper emotional exploration. Many empaths discover forgotten passions, writing, painting, music, or causes that once lit their heart on fire. The narcissist's control often shrinks the world until only their needs matter. Now each rediscovered interest becomes a door back to your own soul. Every brushstroke, every melody, every new skill is a celebration of the self that survived. Boundaries become a central theme in this rebuilding. You begin to understand that love without limits is not love at all. Healthy relationships require clear edges, where you end and the other begins. Practicing boundaries might feel awkward at first, especially if you were conditioned to overgive. But each no, spoken with calm conviction, strengthens your inner foundation. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks that you control. Supportive relationships now take on new meaning. You may find that certain friendships deepen, while others naturally fade. As you grow more authentic, people who value your true self are drawn closer, while those who thrived on your silence drift away. This is not loss, it is alignment. You are no longer available for relationships that demand self-erasure. In this stage, the empath's gift of sensitivity transforms from a source of pain into a source of power. What once made you vulnerable now allows you to sense truth, beauty, and connection with breathtaking clarity. Your intuition, once dulled by manipulation, becomes a trusted guide. And with every step toward authenticity, the narcissist's shadow fades further into memory, losing the power to define your story. Rebuilding is not about rushing into a new relationship or proving your worth to the world. It's about falling in love with your own existence, moment by moment, breath by breath. As Jung wrote, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. In this stage, the privilege becomes your daily practice, and your life begins to reflect the radiant self that has waited patiently to be seen. As you rebuild your authentic self, something even more profound begins to unfold, a spiritual awakening that transcends the pain of the past. It is no longer just about leaving a narcissist or reclaiming your independence. It becomes about understanding the deeper meaning behind everything you endured and discovering the sacred purpose hidden inside the suffering. Carl Jung believed that every confrontation with the shadow is a call to transformation. The narcissist, for all their harm, unknowingly served as a catalyst. They forced you to face wounds you might otherwise have avoided. Fear of abandonment, fear of unworthiness, fear of your own power. By surviving their manipulation, you have not only reclaimed your life, you have also awakened to a dimension of existence that many people never touch. You have walked through darkness and emerged with eyes that can see the light. This awakening often begins as a subtle shift in perception. Colors seem more vivid. Silence feels nourishing rather than empty. You notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences Jung described as signs that the unconscious is communicating with the conscious mind. Perhaps a book falls into your hands at just the right time, or you meet someone who speaks the exact words you needed to hear. These moments are not accidents. They are reminders that you are connected to something larger than the wounds of your past. Your empathic sensitivity, once a source of pain, becomes a finely tuned instrument for wisdom. You start to sense energy in people and places with greater clarity. You can feel when someone's words do not match their intentions, and you trust that feeling without needing external proof. This is not paranoia. It is discernment, an ability born from surviving deception. Where once you doubted yourself, you now trust your intuition as a sacred ally. With this heightened awareness comes a deeper compassion, but it is no longer the self-sacrificing compassion that kept you trapped. It is a compassion rooted in boundaries, the kind that recognizes the humanity in others without surrendering your own. You can see the wounded child inside the narcissist without believing it is your job to heal them. You can hold space for pain without being consumed by it. This is the evolution of empathy, from raw sensitivity to empowered presence. Spiritual practices often blossom naturally during this stage. You might feel drawn to meditation, prayer, nature walks, or creative expression as a way to connect with the unseen layers of life. These practices are not about escaping reality. They are about deepening it. Each moment of stillness becomes a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between the self and the greater whole. Through them, you begin to experience what Jung called the self with a capital S, the timeless center of your being that is both deeply personal and universally connected. This awakening does not mean the pain disappears overnight. Memories may still surface and triggers may still arise, but your relationship with pain transforms. It no longer defines you. It guides you. Every scar becomes a doorway to wisdom. Every tear becomes a river that carries you closer to your true essence. You start to understand that the narcissist's failure was never just their downfall. It was the universe's way of guiding you back to yourself. Their attempt to break you became the crucible in which your soul discovered its unshakable strength. What once felt like betrayal now reveals itself as initiation, a passage into a life of clarity, purpose, and inner freedom. In this stage, you no longer measure your worth by what you endured. Instead, you recognize the quiet miracle of having transformed suffering into power. You are not merely a survivor. You are an awakened empath, someone who walks the world with open eyes, a grounded heart, and a light that no darkness can extinguish. This is where the journey comes full circle. The narcissist's downfall is no longer the focus. The story is no longer about what they took, how they manipulated, or the chaos they left behind. It is about what you have become, an empath who has not only survived, but awakened, transformed, and claimed a life that is entirely your own. When you look back, you can see how every painful chapter was secretly preparing you for this moment. The heartbreak taught you resilience. The gaslighting sharpened your intuition. The loneliness revealed the strength of your inner voice. The very tactics meant to break you became the training ground for your awakening. This is why your story is not one of tragedy, but of triumph. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That is the gift hidden inside the suffering. The narcissist tried to erase you, but in their failure, they gave you the greatest opportunity of all, the chance to meet yourself without masks, without compromise, without fear. You have not just reclaimed your life. You have stepped into the sacred task of individuation, the process of becoming whole. Now your path forward is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about living as the highest expression of yourself. This means honoring the lessons you've learned. It means carrying your boundaries into every relationship, not as walls of defense, but as clear lines of respect. It means trusting your inner guidance, even when the world tells you to doubt it. It means allowing your empathy to remain open, but no longer unguarded. You may notice that your dreams feel bigger now. Where once you limited yourself to keep the peace, you now feel an urge to create, to explore, to share your truth. Whether it's starting a new career, deepening your spiritual practice, building healthy relationships, or simply enjoying moments of peace, you approach life with a sense of freedom that cannot be faked. Your happiness is no longer dependent on another person's approval. Your peace is no longer at the mercy of someone else's chaos. This empowered state does not mean life will be free of challenges. Triggers may surface, and old fears may whisper from time to time. But now you meet them with clarity and strength. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" Pain no longer traps you. It informs you. Darkness no longer defines you. It sharpens your light. And here lies the greatest transformation. You begin to see your journey as a gift, not only for yourself, but for the world. Your story becomes a lantern for others still lost in the narcissist's shadow. Your healing becomes proof that escape is possible, that freedom is real, and that awakening waits on the other side of suffering. You embody the truth that an empath's heart, once broken, can become a source of power so radiant that no manipulation can dim it. So as you step into the next chapter, remember this: you are not a victim of what happened. You are the alchemist of your own life. You have turned pain into wisdom, fear into intuition, and survival into purpose. The narcissist's failure was never just about them. It was the universe's way of introducing you to the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with your own soul. Take a deep breath and feel the quiet strength within you. That is your true self, whole, awake, and unshakable. Walk forward with confidence, not because the world guarantees safety, but because you know beyond doubt that your light cannot be extinguished. This is your power. This is your destiny, and this is only the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. If this message resonated with your journey, take a deep breath and remember, you are not alone. Every scar you carry is proof of your strength, and every step you take toward healing lights the path for someone else. Share your thoughts or your own story in the comments below. You never know who might find hope in your words. And if you felt inspired today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a moment of insight and transformation. Together, we can keep turning pain into wisdom and darkness into light.